Hey there, thank you so much for joining us today. Good to see you on this Wednesday. I'm Veronica Cruz. Here are the top stories that we're tracking for you right now.
This storm surge is going to continue, and it's actually going to get worse.
Can you see this truck here starting to get lifted a little bit, the wind coming underneath it?
We've got concerns about our tornadoes that may be spun out of this hurricane.
When the storm passes, do not drive in flooded streets and assume that all down power lines are still hot and live.
It took me 5 days to enter the airport. Dehydration, lack of oxygen, blasting, gunfiring.
Now, for thousands of Afghan allies who evacuated beside U.S. troops, thriving in the U.S. is proving equally daunting.
They're not stable, and they went through so much.
This was a tragedy. A tragedy that never should have happened.
On a front porch in Nashville, Eva Mobley is asking one big question.
When are we gonna put the hatred aside and start coming together and become a family and love each other?
Welcome to Scripps News Live. We begin this hour in Georgia, where Hurricane Idalia making its way toward the southeastern part of the state after making landfall in the Florida Panhandle this morning. And it's set to hit parts of the south that have never seen a storm like this before, bringing heavy rain, damaging wind, and potentially catastrophic flooding both along the coast and further inland. The National Hurricane Center says the storm will be moving fast.
We're expecting Idalia to move quickly. The forward speed's almost 20 miles an hour now, so it's not going to have a whole lot of time to weaken as it moves inland across North Florida and into southeast Georgia. So we have hurricane warnings in places like Gainesville, Valdosta, all the way up to Savannah and Hilton Head. So there's going to be a substantial inland wind event with this storm. It's going to play out over the next 12 to 18 hours.
Forrest Saunders with the Florida 24 Network has more now on the impact in Cedar Key, which is about 90 miles south of where Idalia made landfall.
I'm Forrest Saunders coming to you from Chiefland, Florida. It's about 27 miles away from Cedar Key, and you can see the conditions here are absolutely miserable. Idalia has pummeled this town all morning with rain like this, really strong sustained winds. I am drenched to the bone. You can see those trees behind me just whipping around. In fact, the motel that I'm standing by has had so much water just pushing into the doors and windows that they've had to put towels down to sop up all of that moisture that's coming through the door underneath the weather seals. It is a crazy situation here, but it could be so much worse. In fact, when you look out at places like Cedar Key, the conditions are much worse. The debris is terrible. They had horrible winds, some of the strongest that Idalia was bringing. And they had a just awful storm surge, which at last check was still rising. Buoys in the area recording 10 feet, and an expectation that this could go to 12 or 16 feet. That is an island community. It has one bridge, one way in and out, and that is it. And we heard from city officials that about 100 people decided to stay put and try and weather this storm. Now we are getting video and images, and we are seeing that water is running through the streets. It is still rising, and there is debris down everywhere. It almost makes what's going on here in Chiefland look wonderful by comparison. That is the latest out here. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Forrest Saunders there in Chiefland, Florida. Forrest, thank you for that. So Hurricane Idalia may have hit the Florida coast as a major Cat 3 storm, but it's been moving across the northern part of the state over land and maintaining its hurricane strength. National correspondent Tammy Eastwick joins us now from Jacksonville, Florida. Tammy, I know that this storm has moved inland. I do see that you're by the coast, though. What is it like where you're at right now?
Yeah, right now we're not seeing much as far as flooding goes, but that is going to be one of the concerns today. Take a look right here behind me. This is one area that has a tendency to get water that's coming over from this river system right here. Now you can see the street is pretty good inundated with water right here. There have been some vehicles making their way slowly through this, but I will say that the city has been on their game today, Veronica, because we've seen crews out here assessing several times since we've been out here in the last couple of hours. One of them even opened up a storm drain to make sure the water was actually going down like it was supposed to. Now, we are expecting this area and several other areas here in Jacksonville, Florida, to flood. That water, like I said right here behind me, this is just one example of what could happen to several other parts of this area. But the majority of the streets right now are still dry. There are some people coming out to take a look at what's going on, especially since the storm has been downgraded a little bit. But as you can see, the winds still raging out here at this hour. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of this water is on the street. It's being pushed over from this levee system right here. But all in all, everything is pretty much level. This is base. This is where we are right now, hoping it doesn't get any worse, but still keeping an eye on the flooding. Now, we spoke to some hotel employees a little bit earlier. They said that they have a strategic plan to have management staff fill sandbags. This is one in particular that is a hotel that's butted up against the boardwalk to make sure that the water stays out of their building. And there's lots of other families and businesses that are doing the same as they wait for this water to impact them. Veronica?
And Tammy, as we've been talking, there are folks out there, they're on their lawn. In fact, there's a truck right behind you, so there is traffic in the area. Is this an area that was given an evacuation order?
So far, we don't know about any evacuation orders, but we do know that a lot of businesses have sent their employees home, or employees have spent half days working. But as you see, a lot of people still out. You know, you're always going to get the looky-loos a little bit earlier. We had people going a little bit further out into this water because there's ramps out here to do fishing and whatnot. A lot of them ended up getting, hit by waves, and they, I'm glad they walked back across the street. But that's also one of the reasons why we're not across the street, for safety reasons. But yeah, you're always going to get people to come out. We have seen local law enforcement out here also keeping an eye on things, so to make sure people are safe. That's pretty much what we've been seeing so far, Veronica.
Yeah, and I do know that they are expecting storm surge in that area to grow even higher, so probably not the best idea to be out and about right now. Tammy Eswick live for us there in Jacksonville, Florida. Tammy, thank you. So eerily reminiscent of last year's threat from Hurricane Ian, Tampa was in Idalia's path, but has managed to avoid a major hit from the storm. Art Mullins is a resident of MacDill Air Force Base just south of Tampa. He was ordered to evacuate and was on Morning Rush earlier, warning people that they should not believe they won't get hit.
I think a lot of people heed the warnings one time and then realize the storm really wasn't that bad, and they don't seem to understand that that's just one instance. We can get some really bad ones. If you've been watching the video from up there in the Big Bend area, they're getting hammered right now, and that could be happening right now to Tampa if that storm had come a little further south. So yeah, I can understand why people get a little reluctant to want to leave, but they should heed those warnings, because once that flood water comes in and they have a medical emergency or something, there's no helping them. They're just stuck there. They're not going to get any help.
Now, the storm is going to move through Florida and head up toward East Georgia and then into the Carolinas. And this morning, Scripps News spoke with the mayor of Savannah, Georgia, and he says that they are prepared for anything.
We've had weather events where some of these trees, which are 200 and 300 years old, were literally ripped out of the ground, ripped out of concrete that covered them. And, so it's always an issue for us. We're always talking about the safety of our residents and first responders as they traverse around the city. And so, that's kind of what we're doing. We're waiting to see how this affects us and then be nimble enough to respond appropriately.
The storm is expected to hit the Savannah and Tybee Island area of Georgia later today. And you can take a deeper dive on Hurricane Idalia coverage online. Feel free to check us out. ScripsNews.com is a place. Also on X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and on Threads. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, the former leader of the Proud Boys getting a break from sentencing. Why court was delayed today. And after a harrowing escape from Afghanistan 2 years ago, life still isn't settled for refugees in the States, what they're still facing straight ahead. And we'd like to hear from you. Give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline toll free. That number is on your screen right now. It's 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas. We'll be right back.
Municipal bonds don't usually get the media coverage the stock market does. In fact, most people don't find them all that exciting. But if you're looking for the potential for consistent income that's federally tax-free, now is an excellent time to consider municipal bonds from Henyon & Walsh. If you have at least $10,000 to invest, call and talk with one of our bond specialists at 1-800-465-8465. We'll send you our exclusive bond guide, free, with details about how bonds can be an important part of your portfolio. Henyon & Walsh has specialized in fixed income and growth solutions for 30 years and offers high-quality municipal bonds from across the country. They provide the potential for regular income, are federally tax-free, and have historically low risk. Call today to request your freedom guide. 1-800-465-8465. That's 1-800-465-8465.
Hi, I'm Kirk Kaiser, and did you know the average funeral costs around $10,000? And if you don't have enough insurance to cover funeral costs, credit card debt, and other expenses, your family is going to get stuck with the bill. Don't let that happen. Call right now. And if you're over 50, you can get up to $30,000 in affordable life insurance, and your acceptance is guaranteed. That's right. If you're over 50, you can't be turned down for this insurance, regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam and no health questions. Your rate will never go up. Your coverage will never go down. And rates start as low as $5 a week. Your coverage begins as soon as your application is received. Don't wait until it's too late.
Just call 800-760-7793.
Coverage is guaranteed regardless of your health and cannot be canceled without your approval. Don't leave your family with a huge bill for your funeral. With one fast and easy call, get up to $30,000 in affordable life insurance to help cover funeral expenses and credit card debt, and maybe even leave something for your kids and your grandkids. Remember, if you're over 50, you can't be turned down, regardless of your health. There's no medical exam and no health questions. Best of all, your rates start as low as $5 a week, and your rate will never increase. Nothing is more important than family. So don't leave them with a lot of bills to pay when you're gone. Don't leave your family with a lot of bills to pay for your funeral. Call right now. Acceptance is guaranteed. Call right now.
Call now. Call 800-760-7793. That's 800-760-7793.
Former Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio supposed to be sentenced today for organizing the January 6th attack on the Capitol, but that's now been pushed back to September 5th, and his punishment is expected to be one of the harshest. Almost 600 people have already been prosecuted for their involvement in the January 6th riot. Congressional correspondent Stephanie Lieberman joins us now live from outside of a courtroom in Washington, D.C. So, Stephanie, it looks like we're going to have to wait now to find out more about Tarrio's sentencing. What happened in court today, and why did they delay it?
Hey, Veronica, good afternoon. Well, the delay was instituted by the court, not by the defendant. So it was the court's decision to push back the sentencing, as you mentioned. Tarrio's sentencing scheduled and removed until Tuesday next week. The other defendant that was scheduled to be sentenced later this afternoon, Ethan Nordine, his sentencing has been rescheduled until Friday this week. Now, even though those have been pushed back, we do have a little bit of insight about what the Department of Justice is asking for in previous court filings that are already on record with the court. And the Department of Justice is arguing that these two Proud Boys leaders and the two also scheduled for sentencing tomorrow were the biggest influences on violence at the Capitol. And so the government is asking for some of the harshest sentences yet. For the four of them, the sentence the Department of Justice is asking for ranges between 27 and 33 years in prison. Now, that ultimate decision on how long their sentence is, that will be left up to the judge in this case. And a former federal prosecutor explained to me that that judge will take a lot of information into consideration. Take a listen.
look at the nature and circumstances of the offense, the seriousness of it, the history and characteristics of the defendant, societal interests like the need to promote respect for the law, the need to promote deterrence, the need to keep the defendant out of society to prevent future harm.
Now, again, two other former Proud Boys leaders, Joseph Biggs and Zachary Real, their scheduling hearings are set for tomorrow, and currently the expectation those are still going to go forward, Veronica.
And Stephanie, this is one of the biggest cases from the insurrection, but it's not the biggest case. How is this going to impact former President Trump's upcoming trial?
Well, that's something that I talked about and asked Adam Kamenstein, that former federal prosecutor, about, and he made the note that really every prosecution, even though some of the crimes that they're charged with may be similar, that every case is different. So there's really not much information to glean in comparing how one prosecution proceeds versus another. One thing he did note, though, that he said is, relatively consistent among all of the hundreds of January 6th cases is that the government has a really good track record here of getting a conviction or getting a guilty plea. And Kamenstein told me that if he were former President Trump, that's what he would be worried about the government being able to keep up that good conviction record.
All right, Stephanie Librigan reporting live for us from Washington. Stephanie, thank you. Today marks 2 years since the U.S. withdrew from Afghanistan and evacuated more than 70,000 Afghan allies to America. National correspondent Ben Shamisa reports today most of those Afghan refugees are still facing an uncertain future.
2 years after some 77,000 Afghans arrived in the U.S. on military planes, many are still in legal limbo and waiting to be reunited with their loved ones.
Making it out of Kabul was supposed to be the hard part.
It took me 5 days to enter the airport. Dehydration, lack of oxygen, blasting, gunfiring.
Now, for thousands of Afghan allies who evacuated beside U.S. troops, thriving in the U.S. is proving equally daunting.
This is our Corpo employment agency. We are helping refugees to get jobs.
Afghan refugee Siam Pasarle finds life in America bittersweet. In Chicago, he owns an employment business and feels protected from Taliban reprisals. As a former spokesperson for the US-backed Afghan government, he says he was a prime target and lost many colleagues.
They killed my friends like this. They put bomb on their car and blast them.
Still, despite risking his life to support the US mission in Afghanistan, he feels that America has turned its back on his family.
Check, 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 check. Check, check.
He has been separated from his wife and children for more than 2 years.
I need my wife, I need my daughter, I need my son to be here.
Like most evacuees, Pasarle resettled in the US under a temporary status called humanitarian parole. It protects him from deportation and allows him to work, but it doesn't offer him a path to permanent status, making it impossible for now to sponsor his family. A few blocks away at the Muslim Women Resource Center, hundreds of Afghan refugees face similar plights. Executive Director Sima Qurashi says out of the roughly 2,000 evacuees her center supports, not even 20 have gotten green cards.
They're not stable and they went through so much.
She urges Congress to pass the Afghan Adjustment Act to legalize those in limbo.
That is the most important thing for Afghan community because they really want to have a peace of mind.
As for Pasarle, he at least arranged for his wife and kids to move to Germany, but he has extended family still stranded in Afghanistan and feels guilty being so far away.
I cannot see my country in this condition. That hurt me, that is painful. I couldn't say goodbye to my father, to my mother.
Ben Shamiso, Scripps News, Chicago.
Straight ahead on Scripps News Live, the White House has rolled out a new plan to reduce drug costs through Medicare. Hear from a recipient about how this change is going to impact him and what he's going to be paying. That's next.
I was having problems with my legs and my feet.
I suffered a lot of cramps
swelling. I would dread going up and down steps.
Tingling in my legs due to circulation issues.
The aches and pains have just continued to increase.
Did you know if you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, or are over 40, your leg aches and pains could be from poor circulation? Revitive can help reduce leg aches and pains, swelling, and cramps. Revitive uses breakthrough technology to get your calf muscles pumping like a second heart to increase blood flow, reducing leg aches and pains, cramps, or swollen feet and ankles.
Plus, it's drug-free.
The cramping was terrible, and I don't get that anymore. Thank you, Revitive.
Revitive is FDA cleared and clinically proven to increase oxygen-rich blood flow during use. The smart stimulation works so well, over 3 million people use Revitive.
As a firefighter, I'm constantly on my feet. I wish I had known about Revitive a lot earlier. It would have made a huge difference in really who I am today.
Revitive has given me a better quality of life because I am living without pain.
Revitive reduces leg pains 2 times more than exercise alone in just 6 weeks.
We want to take walks. We want to do more social activities, just the typical things in life that I did not feel well enough before Revitive that I was able to do.
Now, Revitive is regenerizing my legs and making me feel like, let's do more.
Go to Revitive.com now to learn how Revitive can help reduce leg aches and pains, swelling, and cramps.
The doctor said go for it, and I'm in the best shape in terms of my legs and my ankles and my feet than I've ever been.
Try Revitive. You will see the difference. It works. It worked for me.
Get the most out of life with Revitive. Visit Revitive.com. That's REVITIVE.com. Or call
1-800-317-6641. That's 1-800-317-6641 today. Or visit Revitive.com. Order now.
Hey.
Hey, I'm inside the bank. Where's the $500?
What?
I don't have much time. Where's the $500?
I said drop your bank, not rob your bank.
What?
I said drop your bank and get Dave. The banking app?
Yeah, I thought this was a lot of work for $500.
You think?
I mean, I would love it if you could come get me.
Oh, no. Oh, she going to jail.
Hello?
There's an easier way you can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less when you download Dave.
An inflammatory podcast and blog targeting minorities.
He made people feel very uncomfortable.
Openly ran by a former service officer to Bahrain and current employee of the State Department.
He may well have his right to say what he wants, but not to get paid for it by the taxpayers.
But after years of complaints from coworkers and even Congress, is the extreme podcaster a potential risk to national security?
Should State Department employees be afraid?
Tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Scripps News Tonight.
Welcome back to Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Cruz. Well, the White House is working to reduce the cost of commonly prescribed drugs for the tens of millions of Americans using Medicare. Yesterday, President Biden announced the first 10 drugs selected for price negotiations. White House correspondent Haley Bull has more on the deal.
The White House is determined in its efforts to bring down prescription drug costs and expects this to help millions of seniors. For the first time, Medicare will be able to negotiate the cost of these 10 drugs through the Inflation Reduction Act. They're ones that help with cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and autoimmune disease. Senior administration officials say the drugs met criteria in the Inflation Reduction Act, which included time on the market and cost, and factored in some exemptions. They note these drugs make up about 20% of total Part D gross covered prescription drug costs. Officials hope negotiated prices drive costs lower for other consumers. It's one piece of Biden's larger effort to cut health care costs. During his announcement, Biden called out Republicans who voted against the IRA while underscoring his broader economic agenda.
Today is the start of a new deal for patients where Big Pharma doesn't just get a blank check at your expense and the expense of the American people. On my watch, health care should be a right, not a privilege in this country.
But the move is expected to be met with some objections from pharmaceutical companies who have launched more than a half dozen legal challenges, citing concerns over impact on innovation and research. But the White House is standing firm. Domestic policy advisor Neera Tandon says they are confident in the law.
We know that they will be able to maintain innovation. The Congressional Budget Office also determined that only one drug would be limited in the next decade. So these arguments are definitely ones that we understand they want to put forward because they are trying to protect their power to basically set any price they want, but that power is wrong and we are ending it.
Still, the negotiated prices aren't expected to take effect until 2026, but more drugs are expected to be selected for the following years. Haley Bull, Scripps News, Washington.
Now, the program can make a major difference to people who struggle to pay for prescriptions that can cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars a month. Leslie Delesbor with Scripps News Kansas City has the details for us.
It can be a matter of life or death or even a serious illness for folks like Kevin Richardson if they don't have their medications.
You know you got to wake up the next day to have it. Or if you run out, you don't know what's going to happen the following day.
Unemployed and living with serious health conditions, Kevin's mother foots the bill to keep her son alive.
Oh, without insurance, it's real expensive. I mean, one bottle of them is $1,000.
Something that Christina Dreyer with Mercy and Truth Clinic says is simply unaffordable for many of her patients.
If you're on Medicare or Medicaid, you're on a limited budget, and that's them choosing to eat for a month or get your medications. And unfortunately, the choice is not going to be medications because you can't afford them. Then they have a blood clot. If they have a blood clot, they have a stroke.
Now, changes are on the way. Tuesday, the Biden administration selected 10 drugs for price negotiations, which, if met, could lower the cost for people on Medicare, which will benefit customers pharmacists Michael Fink sees every day.
This might save them up to $1,200 a year in co-pays, and they could also see a reduction in premiums possibly if there is a significant reduction.
Fink and Dreyer both say while there are other medications on the market, the best performing ones are the most effective.
To write that $50 payment or $150 payment into a fixed income, sometimes they eliminate that as being a choice themselves.
In Kansas City, I'm Leslie Delesbor reporting.
In other news at this hour, COVID cases are rising. And this week, there's a 22% increase in the number of people who've been admitted to the hospital or have died from COVID. Now, much of the change is due to people heading back indoors, including the start of a new school year. Health experts are saying 80% of Americans are fully vaccinated and 97% have some immunity from prior infections. Right now, health experts are mulling over whether to update COVID booster recommendations because of these new variants.
What we anticipate is that the people that will be on the list encouraged to get it will be people who are older, people who are immunocompromised. Those will be the people that should be first in line to get it. And then we'll learn from CDC who's next on the list.
CDC advisors will meet early next month to discuss whether to recommend an updated booster. I'm Veronica de la Cruz. Thank you so much for your time today. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. Remember, you can always check us out online at scripsnews.com. And if you're staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right here on Scripps News Live, including continued coverage of Hurricane Idalia as it moves through South Georgia. Hear what Florida residents say is worrying them the most about this storm. That's next.
Attention all seniors. You can now get up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, including your credit card debt, with no medical exam, starting at less than $1 a day.
Oh, honey, your dad and I can't stop talking about this baby that's coming.
We've also been thinking a lot about our future, and no matter what, we want to make sure we aren't leaving you and your family with any of our debts.
Just last week, we read that the price of a funeral can be $8,000 or more.
Wow, Jeff and I definitely would not have the money to pay for that.
And that's just a funeral. But you don't have to worry. We called, and with one phone call, we were eligible for $50,000 for our funeral and final expenses.
Well, that's great, but don't you need to take a medical exam to qualify? You and Mom have some health issues.
No. There's no medical exam, and we were able to get coverage right over the phone.
And our rates can never be increased, our benefits can never be decreased, and our coverage can never be canceled.
I'm so glad you made that call.
Don't leave loved ones with your debt. Call 800-339-7996 now and see if you qualify for up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, starting at less than $1 a day. There's no medical exam, and you can be approved even if you have pre-existing health conditions. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. There's no obligation. Call 800-339-7996 now. There's no paperwork, no hidden fees, and no waiting periods. And you can start coverage right over the phone, starting at less than $1 a day. Call 800-339-7996. That's 800-339-7996. 800-339-7996.
Hey there, welcome to Scripps News Live. Great to see you on this Wednesday. I'm Veronica Cruz. I want to get you back to our top story this hour. Hurricane Idalia making its way towards the southeastern part of Georgia after making landfall in the panhandle of Florida this morning. It's set to hit parts of the south that have never seen a storm like this one, let alone one that is this powerful, bringing with it heavy rain, damaging wind, and potentially catastrophic flooding both along the coast and further inland. Officials have been warning people that they need to stay indoors to avoid the threat of storm surge and flooding.
There are still threats to be concerned about even at this hour. Take flooding, for example. Some St. Pete businesses and homes are experiencing severe flooding. So please do not venture outside if you have no reason to do so. You're not only risking your life, but the lives of our first responders.
Scripps News meteorologist Scott Withers is in Tampa for us and tracking the path of the storm as it continues to move inland.
Hurricane Idalia making landfall in Florida's Big Bend early this morning. Behind me, you can see in Tampa Bay, we've got whitecaps. That is rolling into town. The storm surge flooding the downtown area. We've got abandoned cars. When we arrived, someone was stuck in there. We called the police and they got them out safely. You can be seen behind me here. We've got residents kind of checking the flooding out. But in the background, that water is rolling into town. The mayor here telling people, yes, it doesn't look like the storm is causing a lot of problems here, but the storm surge is actually going to intensify throughout the day because of multiple things, including the high tide here in the bay. Up and down the Gulf Coast, we're dealing with this storm surge from here up through Cedar Key and then into the area where it came abroad there in Taylor County. Now, that part of the state not highly populated on the coast, but inland, the small town of Perry taking the direct hit from this hurricane. Still powerful winds moving through that area, up to 10 inches of rain from Tallahassee stretching across southern Georgia all the way into Columbia. This storm on the move, now moving inland. It's going to cross that area. It's going to still be a hurricane by the time it gets to Charleston, South Carolina later this night. I'm Scripps News meteorologist Scott Withers in Tampa, Florida.
That storm right now is still a Category 1 storm northeast of Valdosta, Georgia. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is giving an update right now. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
Well, good afternoon. The eye of Hurricane Idalia has left the state of Florida. The state is still being impacted by the storm's bands, and we're seeing that particularly in the northern part of the state. So far, there have been 262,000 accounts that had lost power have been restored, and there are more than 250,000 accounts that are currently out of power and in need of restoration. As you'd imagine, the counties that have the highest percentage of power outages are the counties that were in the main pathway of the storm. Counties like Dixie, Levy, Taylor, Suwannee, Madison, Jefferson, and Columbia. Utility workers are actively working to restore power in all affected areas. and they have started doing that as soon as it was safe to do so. So those restoration efforts are ongoing. We do anticipate you could have that these power outage numbers could go higher, but the restoration numbers are going to go higher as well. All 8 urban search and rescue teams are deployed. Our National Guard has folks in places like Taylor County. They're getting on scene there to do things like clear major pieces of the roads and get debris that has been knocked around. So there's a lot of moving parts there, kind of at ground zero. So we've got a National Guard unit there. General Haas going to talk more about that. Coast Guard is active, including with Rotary Wing assets. Florida Fish and Wildlife has both boats and vehicles en route to the affected areas. And Florida Department of Transportation has been conducting cut and toss operations starting at the southern part of the state as the storm moved through southwest Florida, clearing those roads and then moving all the way up north. And so they are en route to clear all the way up to Taylor County. Right now, Tampa Airport is going to reopen for incoming flights at 4 p.m. By 3 a.m. tomorrow, it will be fully reopened. Gainesville Airport will reopen tonight, and Tallahassee Airport will reopen first thing in the morning. The ports in Tampa and Manatee are currently undergoing assessments, and when those assessments are concluded, they will be able to resume operations, assuming all is well, which we anticipate it will be. There are, as of now, no confirmed fatalities, and those fatalities are things that get confirmed by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement through medical examiners. We do not have any confirmed fatalities yet. If you have any questions about how things are unfolding in your area, you can go to floridadisaster.org for updates. The Florida Division of Emergency Management will continue to update that website with all the latest information. We have really good retail in terms of all the counties, I think, other than the Big Bend proper, the Tampa Bay area. Things are good. Leon County is doing well. We're still assessing what is all going on the ground in the places that had the initial impact. And so we're probably going to be, I'm probably going to try to get down to some of those counties today. But we got a lot of people that are going in, offering assistance from the state perspective, helping these counties be able to stabilize the situation. So for more updates on this, I'm going to bring up Kevin Guthrie from the Florida Division of Emergency Management.
All right. Thank you, Governor. So far right now, the biggest impacted area that we have, following up on what the governor said, is seems to be in Perry. Right now, we know we have a couple of businesses that have caught on fire, a few that have roofs knocked off of them, maybe potentially one collapse. We're getting some conflicting information on that. But we do have Cruz.
Now, we've been listening to officials there in Florida giving an update on the latest with Hurricane Idalia. Moments ago, we heard from Governor Ron DeSantis, who is saying that as of right now, there are no confirmed fatalities, though 250,000 people remain in the dark. They are calling on the utility companies to get the power up and running again, and they have called on the National Guard. Now, area airports will be reopening as well. Tampa Airport will be reopening today at 4 p.m. Again, we're going to continue to monitor the situation, continue to monitor the storm's path and the impact of the hurricane right here on Scripps News. You want to stay with us for full coverage as that storm moves through Florida and into Georgia all afternoon. We will be right back.
Municipal bonds don't usually get the media coverage the stock market does. In fact, most people don't find them all that exciting. But if you're looking for the potential for consistent income that's federally tax-free, now is an excellent time to consider municipal bonds from Henyon & Walsh. If you have at least $10,000 to invest, call and talk with one of our bond specialists at 1-800-465-8465. We'll send you our exclusive bond guide, free, with details about how bonds can be an important part of your portfolio. Henyon & Walsh has specialized in fixed income and growth solutions for 30 years and offers high-quality municipal bonds from across the country. They provide the potential for regular income, are federally tax-free and have historically low risk. Call today to request your free bond guide. 1-800-465-8465. That's 1-800-465-8465.
If you're living with diabetes, this is the sound that could change your life.
Great news for people living with diabetes. Now you can wear a continuous glucose monitor and eliminate routine finger sticks. The days of repeated, painful finger sticks are over.
Call 800-820-9953.
If you use insulin daily to manage your condition, a continuous glucose monitor could help you control your diabetes and reduce or eliminate those painful finger sticks. If you have Medicare or private insurance, US Med can deliver a CGM system right to your door. And if you qualify, there may be little or no cost to you. Shipping is free, and we'll even bill your insurer directly. Call now to get your continuous glucose monitoring system so you can take control of your diabetes and get back to enjoying life.
Call 800-820-9953. That's 800-820-9953.
How long have you been tracking the value of our car? Should we sell it?
We hold.
Our low mileage is paying off. You think we should?
Hold.
Now!
I'm on it.
Already sold to Carvana.
Go to Carvana and track your car's value today.
How does Klein Inspector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein Inspector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein Inspector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein Inspector.
There's a better way to begin your mornings.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Rush.
Get the stories that will shape each day,
Definitely a lot of folks talking about this.
so you can get on with yours. Morning Rush, weekday mornings starting at 7, 6 Central, only on Scripps News.
Welcome back. More controversy at the Tennessee State House and the way Republican leadership there has been acting. This time for the treatment toward members of the Democratic members known as the Tennessee Three. And the House Speaker allegedly shoved Representative Justin Pearson, and Representative Justin Jones was temporarily silenced after criticizing a state bill addressing violence in school. National political correspondent Kevin Cirilli has the details.
Democratic State Representative Justin Jones was disciplined by Republicans who said that he was, quote, out of order on the floor of the Tennessee chamber yesterday. It comes as he was making comments about different policy proposals to address school shootings, one of which happened several days ago in Tennessee. The Republican Speaker of the House and the Tennessee legislator, Cameron Sexton, had led the state legislature earlier this year in passing additional protocols following earlier developments with the Tennessee Three earlier this year. Take a listen to their exchange yesterday. What is one little Glock against an AR-15?
Representative Jones, that's not the bill that's before you, sir. You're out of order.
What our schools need are mental health professionals. We need funding for mental health, for counselors. We need to pay our teachers better. We don't need more police in our schools.
Representative Jones, you're off the bill again, sir. You're out of order.
Here in Washington, D.C., in Congress, anytime gun reform or Second Amendment rights, school shootings, or how to address mass violence and mass shootings in the country are discussed on the floor of Congress, it is very typical for Democrats and Republicans to talk about a plethora of various different ideas in order to address the issue. Jones's comments were, objectively speaking, not out of the realm of conversation. And the conversation that Cameron Sexton, the Republican Speaker of the House, lobbed his way escalated the rhetoric once again on the floor of the Tennessee State Legislature and ended up in having Justin Pearson, a Democratic state representative, another member of the Tennessee Three, to be shoved. Take a look. Kevin Cirilli, Scripps News, Washington.
Classes at UNC Chapel Hill are still on hold as students and faculty cope with the shooting death of a beloved professor. A grad student now being charged with murder. Police say the victim was a suspect's faculty advisor, but they're still searching for key evidence, a motive, and the murder weapon. National correspondent Morris Tirani shares what we know so far.
Yeah, the motive still a big question on so many people's minds. The suspect, though, I can tell you, is being held this morning without bail, and police say they are still working to recover the gun used in the shooting. The victim has been identified as Z.J. Yun, an associate professor in the Department of Applied Physical Sciences at UNC Chapel Hill. University officials say he joined the faculty there 4 years ago and was a beloved colleague, mentor, and friend. Yun was also a father who leaves behind 2 young children. Now, the alleged shooter is identified as 34-year-old Tai Lee Chi. Police say he walked into Kata Labs Monday, shot Yun, and then left the building. The suspect is a graduate student, like we said, in applied physical sciences. University officials say Yun was his faculty advisor. Now, in addition to felony first-degree murder charges, he's also charged with having a gun on campus and could face more charges as this investigation winds on here. Now, one possibility, though, the district attorney says is not on the table, the death penalty. Listen.
When I ran for district attorney, I said unequivocally that this office would not seek the death penalty in any case. And I didn't do that in anticipation of this case or any other case, but I made a promise to the voters that this office would not seek the death penalty, period, and I intend to abide by that promise.
And this is chilling here. The cover of UNC's student newspaper grabbing national attention today. It's a full page of frantic text messages sent and received by students in the wake of Monday's shooting. We've blurred out some words there, but some of the text messages read, "Are you safe? Where are you? I'm so scared. Somebody is already shot. Please pray for us," and so on. Powerful images illustrate the panic felt as students hid in dorm rooms, lecture halls, and bathrooms for about 3 hours as they waited for the lockdown to be lifted. Today, the campus bell tower will ring, followed by a moment of silence. Classes have been canceled until Thursday. Mara Siriani, Scripps News.
A federal hate crime investigation is underway after a white man shot and killed 3 black people in a Dollar General in Jacksonville on Saturday. Authorities revealed the 21-year-old gunman worked at a Dollar Tree last summer. Right before the shooting, he stopped at a Family Dollar store and a nearby historically black university. He left the school after a security guard approached him. The Jacksonville sheriff says the shooter made it clear that he was targeting black people. 19-year-old A.J. Laguerre was the youngest of the 3 victims killed. His family says he worked at the Dollar General to help support his younger siblings. Jason Lamb with Scripps News Nashville sat down with his grandmother to learn more about the young man who meant so much to so many.
This was a tragedy. A tragedy that never should have happened.
On a front porch in Nashville, Eva Mobley is asking one big question.
When is it gonna stop? When is the hatred gonna stop?
This weekend, police say a racially motivated gunman shot and killed 3 people at a Jacksonville, Florida Dollar General. One of the 3 was A.J. Laguerre.
He was a gentle giant.
Eva's grandson.
A.J. was real quiet, but he was also loved by his family.
A.J. had just graduated high school with dreams of becoming a professional video game streamer.
Gaming was really what brought all the brothers and stuff together.
With an assault-style rifle that police say was emblazoned with swastikas, police say the shooter, who killed himself, left behind several racist writings.
We got to wake up. We all different skin color, but we still can love. We love alike. We put our pants on the same way. We eat the same way.
His family wants answers that aren't easy to come by.
When is we gonna put the hatred aside and start coming together and become a family and love each other? It doesn't make sense to me.
But now, as AJ's family plans a memorial service, they say there's one question that lingers in their minds more than any other.
Who knows what they took out of this world? What AJ could have been if they only had given him a chance.
In Nashville, Jason Lamb.
We will never know.
For Scripps News.
And we will be right back.
I've been putting off getting life insurance, and I'm not getting any younger.
Have you been thinking about getting a life insurance plan but just keep putting it off? Was that a yes? Then this message is for you. I'm David Denowitz, and I know the importance of life insurance. And that's why I'm here to tell you it's not too late to get the coverage you need.
If you're between the ages of 45 and 85, you can get a policy with a benefit of up to $25,000 and rates available at $5 a week. The phone lines are now open. Just call 800-354-6059.
And your acceptance is guaranteed.
I have a pre-existing medical condition. Is my acceptance guaranteed?
Yes.
Can I get accepted without a medical exam?
Yes. If you're between 45 and 85, you can't be turned down for this guaranteed acceptance life insurance regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam and no health questions. And rates start at just $5 a week. Remember, if you're between 45 and 85, you can't be turned down regardless of your health. Nothing's more important than family. So call now, pick up the phone, and get guaranteed acceptance life insurance today.
Just call 800-354-6059.
I'm 72 and on a fixed income. Is my acceptance guaranteed?
Yes, your acceptance is guaranteed and your rate can never go up for any reason. You can't be turned down regardless of your health. There's just one simple question. Are you between 45 and 85? If you answered yes, don't wait another minute. Call now.
The call is absolutely free and there is no obligation to enroll. Just call 800-354-6059. That's 800-354-6059.
How can a photo become a vibrant part of your home? When you go to tryfracture.com and print your images directly on glass. Get beautiful depth and clarity on a sleek, frameless print that's easy to hang and looks incredible in any space. Go to tryfracture.com now to save 20% on glass prints.
Hey, I'm inside the bank. Where's the $500? What? I don't have much time. Where's the $500?
I said drop your bank, not rob your bank.
What?
I said drop your bank and get Dave. The banking app?
Yeah, I thought this was a lot of work for $500.
You think?
I mean, I would love it if you could come get me.
Oh, no. Oh, she going to jail.
Hello?
There's an easier way you can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less when you download Dave.
You're watching Scripps News. Streaming everywhere, totally free. Want to see more? Grab the app on your favorite streaming platform or go to scripsnews.com to find every way to watch. Go to scripsnews.com now to find out more.
Take a look at this bird's eye view of Hurricane Idalia after it made landfall in Florida's Big Bend this morning. The International Space Station releasing these images. The flyover lasted about 20 minutes, and right now the hurricane is moving from Florida into Georgia as a Category 1 storm. Ohio is playing a key role in space exploration through its NASA Glenn Research Center, and it's been involved in some of NASA's most famous space missions, including the current effort to return to the moon. John Kosick with Scripps News Cleveland reports that NASA Glenn is also a major employer looking to attract the next generation of space technicians.
NASA Glenn makes a list of Ohio's top 100 employers, even if barely at number 96. Don't be fooled, though. The quiet economic engine of the space giant goes beyond its roughly 3,300 good-paying jobs, many of them scientists and engineers, to the jobs it supports in Northeast Ohio outside of these gates, another 8,400. Folks like John Zoldak of Zen Technologies.
What I have here is some hardware that we flew to the International Space Station.
They are a contractor to NASA Glenn, employing about 250 employees in Middleburg Heights since 1957.
We've flown over 400 experiments to the International Space Station with Glenn. We flew 250 different pieces of hardware last year to the ISS.
Without NASA Glenn, he says these are jobs that wouldn't exist in Cuyahoga County. Same can be said for Main Thea Technologies in Cleveland. There are 80 employees providing the behind-the-scenes support work that keeps this place operational.
When everything goes well, you don't know we're here.
There is one problem that they have, though, that's beyond their control.
We're having a difficult time finding the technicians. Your college graduates are easy to find. The universities in the area produce a lot of engineering, but to find the next generation of skilled labor has been very challenging.
That's one of the reasons both of these companies were here at NASA Glenn this day, meeting with Senator Sherrod Brown and NASA officials, but more importantly, Cleveland area high school students, letting them know that theirs is a future that could start here. Deputy Administrator and former astronaut Pam Melroy telling the students that over a century ago, the greatest minds in the world were in a race to figure out flight, but it was a couple of bicycle mechanics from Ohio, the Wright brothers, who beat them to it.
And I wanted to look every kid in the face and say, you could invent the next amazing thing that will transform aviation or space.
Count Ruben and Lewis is in. Is this something you consider a career in?
Yes, especially yes. Especially doing air pumps and all that, Mach 10, helping planes and helping the air traffic at the same time. It's quite nice.
Lewis, though, says his eventual dream has evolved for practical reasons.
As a kid, I always wanted to be an astronaut, to go up into space, but heights have been a little iffy for me, so I think I'm going to stay on the ground and work on designing.
With 11,000 jobs in and around this place, there's a good chance he'll eventually find one. In Cleveland, I'm John Kosick reporting.
A group of young athletes will soon make their mark in history. They're part of the first team to represent Cincinnati at the Gay Softball World Series. Evan Millward with Scripps News Cincinnati explains how this is all part of a bigger movement to diversify sports in the area.
On Tuesday nights, there are a few better places than the softball fields.
All right, let's find it out here. Let's find it out.
The Broadway Monkeys are fielding, and that's manager Matt Zeiss.
I'm nervous, absolutely.
Because after this game, they're on the road representing our city.
The Gay Softball World Series has been around since 1977, and Cincinnati has never had a presence in the World Series.
What does that mean for Cincinnati on like a national scale?
Oh, I think it's huge. I mean, there's 250 plus teams throughout the US and Canada that go to this Gay World Series every single year at the end of the summer. So it's a national stage, showcase the best of the best from every city in the whole LGBTQ plus sports arena in the sport of softball.
River City Softball League's been around almost as long as the series, since 1980. But this is a first.
I've been in this league for 10 years now. I think we started with maybe 10 to 12 teams. We're up to 19 teams, and it's our highest ever total that we've ever had. Because they started in 1980 with just 2 teams on one field.
These ball fields are an escape.
It's just a good night to get out, hang with friends, play sports that we love, and have a good time.
He's going second.
An escape from your job, from social media, and in some cases, from past sports experiences that didn't feel so welcoming.
Maybe there was a lot of talk that was inappropriate or they didn't feel like welcome in that group. Gay sports, I feel, is something that is needed in our community.
I think what it is a safe space for everyone, very inclusive, and everybody's just here to have a good time.
Plenty of allies play too. Now they have more than ever, including on the team now in Minneapolis.
Feel any pressure to represent the city?
A little bit.
It's out, it's out, it's out. No, it's not.
After a successful inning, it's hopefully a sign of success ahead.
This is the first time going with Cincinnati, so I'm going to be nervous, but I'm going to be super excited as well.
And be proud too, right?
Super proud.
That was Evan Millward in Cincinnati for us. Thank you so much for watching Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Cruz. Great to see you today. For the audience leaving us, your local programming is up next. And don't forget, you can always check us out online. ScrippsNews.com is a place. Now, if you're staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right here on Scripps News Live, including continued coverage of Hurricane Idalia as it moves through the state of Georgia. Take a look at these live pictures right now of the river in Savannah, Georgia. That storm expected to move into the city later this afternoon. We'll have the details after a quick break.
If you have this, and you get this, you could end up with this. Unexpected out-of-pocket costs, which for those on Medicare or soon to be, is a good reason to take charge of your health care. So consider this, an AARP Medicare Supplement Insurance Plan from United Healthcare. Why? Because Medicare alone doesn't pay for everything. And what it doesn't pay for, like deductibles and copays, could really add up. even thousands of dollars a year. Medicare supplement plans help by paying some of what Medicare doesn't and making your out-of-pocket costs a lot more predictable. Call United Healthcare today and ask for your free decision guide. Learn more about plan options and rates to fit your needs. Now, if you like this, greater freedom, you'll love that Medicare supplement plans have no networks and no referrals needed. See any doctor, any specialist, anywhere in the U.S., as long as they accept Medicare patients. These types of plans also give you more flexibility when traveling in the U.S. Your plan goes with you, anywhere you go in the country. Even better, these are the only plans of their kind, endorsed by AARP. Call United Healthcare today for your free decision guide. So if you have this and want less out-of-pocket costs and more peace of mind, consider adding this, an AARP Medicare supplement plan. Take charge of your healthcare today. Just use this or this to call United Healthcare about an AARP Medicare supplement plan.
Almost everyone on at Keaton Beach, I think they all left. If they stayed, I've been there 40 years, man. Yeah. I went through the storm of 1993. It was called the no-name storm, the storm of the century. But this right here, I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna have a house to go home to.
Developing now, Hurricane Idalia unleashing its fury on Florida and Georgia with heavy rain and life-threatening wind. The storm making landfall near Keaton Beach in Florida's Big Bend just before 8 a.m. Eastern this morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Veronica Cruz. Welcome to Scripps News Live. Let's take a live look at the radar right now. Idalia moving across southern Georgia as a Cat 1 storm. It's set to hit parts of the south that have never seen a storm like this before, bringing heavy rain, damaging wind, and potentially catastrophic flooding along the coast and further inland. Parts of Tampa now dealing with the storm surge from Idalia. Scripps News meteorologist Scott Withers is there for us. He has this look at the rising water.
Hurricane Idalia making landfall in Florida's Big Bend early this morning. Behind me, you can see in Tampa Bay, we've got whitecaps. That is rolling into town. The storm surge flooding the downtown area. We've got abandoned cars. When we arrived, someone was stuck in there. We called the police and they got them out safely. You can be seen behind me here. We've got residents kind of checking the flooding out. But in the background, that water is rolling into town. The mayor here telling people, yes, it doesn't look like the storm is causing a lot of problems here, but the storm surge is actually going to intensify throughout the day because of multiple things, including the high tide here in the bay. Up and down the Gulf Coast, we're dealing with this storm surge from here up through Cedar Key and then into the area where it came abroad there in Taylor County. Now, that part of the state not highly populated on the coast, but inland, the small town of Perry taking the direct hit from this hurricane. Still powerful winds moving through that area, up to 10 inches of rain from Tallahassee stretching across southern Georgia all the way into Columbia. This storm on the move, now moving inland. It's going to cross that area. It's going to still be a hurricane by the time it gets to Charleston, South Carolina later this night. I'm Scripps News meteorologist Scott Withers in Tampa, Florida.
Hurricane Idalia may have hit the Florida coast as a major Category 3 storm, but it's moving out of the state toward Georgia right now as a Cat 1. National correspondent Tammy Eswick is live for us in Jacksonville, Florida. So, Tammy, I see that the wind is now whipping up and it looks like that water is rising. What has it been like, What has it been like where you're at?
Yeah, it has been. Thanks for noticing that, Veronica. But I wanted to start a little bit with this storm surge that you just heard Scott talk about in Tampa. Here in Jacksonville, we're just now seeing some of the same things. Take a look right here at the water. Now, the wind is making its way, pushing these waves, and of course, that is impacting all this water that you see in the roadway. Now, if you joined us a little bit earlier, you may have noticed that the water in this roadway has grown. We started off back here at this huge palm tree, and now we're all the way up here. That's a lot of an increase, if you ask me. And water continues to come over from St. John River. A lot of people out here, like we talked about earlier, taking a look to see what is going on out here. Meanwhile, emergency crews and city crews have been out here assessing the water, making sure it is going down. Now, there are several drains on this street on River Road. This is a street that's known to flood whenever there is a hurricane or even a really bad storm. And in past hurricanes, the homes along this area have flooded. But crews have been checking to make sure the drains are draining. Several of them are doing great. They even opened up the sewer in the middle of the road to make sure it was okay. But there is a problem spot back here, as you can see. There are people driving through. Most of them are being safe, making sure not to push the water into homes. Others are not doing so well and driving through fast. Of course, officials do not want you going through the water in the first place, but if you absolutely have to, you have to slow it down. Now, people are bracing for the brunt of the storm. We are expecting to get a lot more bad weather in this area because even though this storm has less intensity as it had when it made landfall, we are still not out of the woods yet. We're expecting rain. We're expecting the storm surge. The storm surge, as a matter of fact, could get up to 12 feet in some areas on the bend of Florida, in the areas that we're in along Jacksonville. 12 feet, but it could go higher, as Scott has mentioned earlier. So we're just bracing for the worst of this storm. It seems like it's already trying to push its way through here. We're going to stay safe and make sure we report the best way for you guys while we're being safe. Veronica?
You know, you and I spoke about an hour ago now, Tammy, and that water really has come up. It looks like it's at least a couple more inches deep. But as we've been talking, I do see folks still out and about. Are authorities passing through the area? They've been asking folks to stay hunkered down? All right, it looks like we're having some audio difficulties there. That was Tammy Eswick reporting from Jacksonville, Florida for us. So as Idalia moves across South Georgia, leaders like Savannah Mayor Van Johnson are saying that they are prepared. The city is under a state and local emergency to execute emergency management plans if necessary. Johnson was on Morning Rush earlier to share more on the impact that Savannah could be seeing.
A place like Savannah, if you've ever been, where we were surrounded by water, we have beautiful trees, 80,000 of them. And so therefore, the issues of water, rising water, we're expecting a king tide today, which is always challenging for us. Trees that are all over the place that, you know, in varying degrees of age, you know, it might fall, that might cause some issues for us as well. So, you know, we think coming from the west side is sometimes issues of tornadoes, not necessarily for us directly, but for our neighbors around us, which causes issues for us as well.
You mentioned the trees there. I've been to Savannah myself. It is majestic, like the trees covered in moss. It is truly a picturesque city. A lot of people, when they're traveling in Georgia, they will go to the coast near Savannah. Would flooding damage those trees, damage the historic nature of that community?
It would. I mean, obviously, the ground's being saturated. We've had weather events where some of these trees, which are 200 and 300 years old, were literally ripped out of the ground, ripped out of concrete that covered them. And, you know, so it's always an issue for us. We're always talking about the safety of our residents and first responders as they traverse around the city. And so, you know, that's kind of what we're doing. We're waiting to see how this affects us and then be nimble enough to respond appropriately.
That was Savannah Mayor Van Johnson on Morning Rush earlier, sharing his city's preparations for this storm. We are keeping a close eye on Hurricane Idalia for you, tracking the storm throughout the day. You want to stay with Scripps News for the very latest on the storm's track and its impacts. Coming up next, UNC Chapel Hill planning to honor the professor who was shot and killed on campus Monday. We're going to share the latest on the investigation. And don't forget that you can always count on Scripps News for all of your news throughout the primetime hours, beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern.
They get it. They know how it works. And more importantly, it works for them.
I don't have any anxiety about money anymore.
I don't have to worry about a mortgage payment every month.
It allowed me to live in my home and not have to pay payments.
Linda, Dinah, Joanne, very different people, but they do have a couple of things in common. They love their home, and they know their stuff. They all talked about the counseling they got, so they knew how a reverse mortgage worked and how it could be a real financial solution for their retirement.
If you're 62 or older and own your home, find out how you could access your home's equity to give you cash now and when you need it in the future. A reverse mortgage could put more money in your pocket by eliminating your monthly mortgage payments, paying off higher interest credit cards, and covering medical costs.
A person like me needed to get a reverse mortgage to change my life. It was the best thing I've ever done. And
Really?
Yes, without a doubt.
Just like these folks, AAG can show you how a reverse mortgage loan uses your built-up home equity to give you tax-free cash. They also know they can pay it back whenever it works for them.
It's a good thing. Call right now to receive your free no-obligation info kit. The kit will show you how you could get the cash you need using your home's equity as a reverse mortgage from AAG. Call 800-431-5319.
I've been with AAG for quite a while now. I think they're the real deal. So look, why don't you get the facts like these folks did and see if a reverse mortgage could work for you?
Call AAG, the country's #1 reverse mortgage lender. Call 800-431-5319. That's 800-431-5319.
How does Klein Inspector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein Inspector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein Inspector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein Inspector.
Welcome back. Well, the University of North Carolina's bell tower will ring this afternoon in honor of the associate professor who was shot and killed Monday. Police say a grad student walked into a classroom building, shot his faculty advisor, and then left. The 34-year-old suspect is charged with both first-degree murder and having a gun on educational property. He made a brief court appearance yesterday and is being held without bond. The Chapel Hill campus was on lockdown until the suspect was arrested within 2 hours of that attack. Investigators are still trying to determine a motive. A federal hate crime investigation is underway after a white man shot and killed 3 black people in a Dollar General in Jacksonville Saturday. Authorities revealed the 21-year-old gunman worked at a Dollar Tree last summer. Right before the shooting, he stopped at a Family Dollar store and a nearby historically black university. He left the school after a security guard approached him. The Jacksonville sheriff says the shooter made it clear that he was targeting black people. And a State Department employee made troubling anti-Semitic comments during a podcast, and several people, including members of Congress, have filed complaints. But as of right now, a person who degraded Jews, people of color, and members of the LGBTQ+ community is still being employed by the U.S. government. National political correspondent Alex Miller is digging into this and joining us now live. So, Alex, what more can you tell us about this?
Well, Veronica, I have been looking at these podcasts for about 2 years now, speaking to State Department employees for 2 years about their experiences, and the responses, they've frankly been troubling. But this isn't a story about a secret blog or a secret podcast, because frankly, they're not secret. It's about how the State Department knows about these and how it even extends further into the workplace.
Who's the enemy? It's the Jew, the Jew, the Jew, the Jew, the Jew.
You're listening to the voice of a current State Department employee. His name is Fritz Berggren. He's been hosting this podcast and blog called Blood and Faith for nearly 6 years, all while being employed by the federal government.
I think there's reason for concern in terms of what that does to our country's image.
Ambassador Eric Rubin has served abroad for this country multiple times and now heads up the organization that represents U.S. Foreign Service officers worldwide.
Should State Department employees be afraid of their safety, for their safety?
I hope not. I think our employees need some assurance that, somebody who thinks they should die, basically, is what he's saying, is not, working among them and potentially, putting them at risk.
Now, Scripps News has learned these shocking views weren't confined to these blog posts. A former colleague of Berggren's at the U.S. Embassy in Bahrain, where Berggren was once posted, told us Berggren expressed similar sentiments in his time at the embassy. The former colleague agreed to talk with Scripps News on the condition of anonymity. The voice you're about to hear is not that of the employee.
He would always display magazines, very, very pro-right magazines in his office. I know that he was definitely making certain groups of people, especially in the housing community where he lived, he made people feel very uncomfortable.
Ambassador Rubin told us under State Department policy, Foreign Service officers are not supposed to share their political opinions in any public forum, including in their workplace or in a podcast.
You cannot go out and speak publicly. You cannot contradict official policy. We can't work this way. There has to be a clear set of expectations.
Is the line blurry in these situations?
I don't think so. We are on duty 24/7 representing our country, and our behavior and our actions reflect on our country. We send people home all the time, basically saying, you have brought disrepute to our country.
And Veronica, he is not supposed to be making partisan political comments. And through listening to these podcasts, we've seen him criticize the Bidens, Jewish members of his cabinet, President Zelensky for being Jewish, and much, much more. We reached out to Fritz Berggren to speak with him on multiple occasions, and he never got back to us. But we did also ask the State Department to sit down with us. And while they didn't want to sit down with us either, they provided us with this statement saying that the department views the content on the blog as anti-Semitic, racist, homophobic, xenophobic, and otherwise abhorrent, discriminatory, and inconsistent with the values and the mission of the U.S. Department of State.
So, Alex, can you give us a better picture of what he's doing for the government? We know that he worked for the embassy. He's at the State Department. What is his role exactly?
Well, he's still employed full-time. He was booted from the embassy in Bahrain because of these blog posts, but he was brought back to the United States to work full-time. At one point, he was working on special immigrant visas, which are visas that go to Afghani and Iraqi translators, so the minority communities that he criticizes in some of these podcasts. But now he is working in the Administration Bureau, which is basically on internal-facing matters. But members of Congress, as we talked about earlier, Jewish employees, other groups representing State Department employees have expressed some serious concerns here about the fact that he is still employed. One thing that we also asked the State Department was whether or not he still had a security clearance. They would not confirm it, and it's also unclear if he does have one still, if it will be able to be renewed.
All right, Alex Miller live for us there in New York. Alex, thank you so much. Still to come on Scripps News Live, emergency crews in parts of Florida advising people to stay clear of rising floodwater. Our coverage of Hurricane Idalia continues after a quick break. And we would like to hear from you. Give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline. The number is on your screen. It's toll-free, 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas.
Attention anyone new to Medicare, moving or losing coverage for any reason. You may qualify for a Medicare special enrollment period. Call now to see if you're eligible to enroll in a Medicare Part C plan with extra benefits. Did you know Medicare Part C is commonly called Medicare Advantage? If you qualify for an SEP, call now because there may be plans with extra benefits available that are not covered under Medicare Parts A and B. There are people who qualify for special enrollment but don't have a Medicare Advantage Part C plan, which covers everything at Part A and Part B, plus extra benefits not covered by original Medicare. Here's the good news. If you qualify, you can call now. We will check to see if there is a Medicare Advantage Part C plan available in your area with additional benefits. Call now to speak with a licensed insurance agent to see if you are eligible to enroll in a 2023 Medicare Advantage plan with extra benefits like dental coverage or savings on prescription medications. You don't get these extra benefits automatically, so call now for your free 2023 no-obligation Medicare benefits review. Just call 800-543-6120. 800-543-6120. Attention anyone new to Medicare, moving or losing coverage for any reason. You may qualify for a Medicare special enrollment period. Call now to see if you're eligible to enroll in a Medicare Part C plan with extra benefits. Did you know Medicare Part C is commonly called Medicare Advantage? If you qualify for an SEP, call now because there may be plans with extra benefits available that are not covered under Medicare Parts A and B. There are people who qualify for special enrollment but don't have a Medicare Advantage Part C plan, which covers everything at Part A and Part B, plus extra benefits not covered by original Medicare. Here's the good news. If you qualify, you can call now. We will check to see if there is a Medicare Advantage Part C plan available in your area with additional benefits. Call now to speak with a licensed insurance agent to see if you are eligible to enroll in a 2023 Medicare Advantage plan with extra benefits like dental coverage or savings on prescription medications. You don't get these extra benefits automatically, so call now for your free 2023 no-obligation Medicare benefits review. Just call 800-543-6120. 800-543-6120.
This is Sydney.
Hello.
Look at the space between her head and her shoulder. It's a square. What Sydney needs is a pillow that properly supports her neck and keeps her spine in alignment. Hence, the Pillow Cube. Buy the Pillow Cube today.
Hey.
Hey, I'm inside the bank.
What?
I don't have much time. Where's the $500?
I said drop your bank and get Dave. The banking app.
What?
There's an easier way.
Oh, she going to jail.
You can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less when you download Dave.
An inflammatory podcast and blog targeting minorities.
He made people feel very uncomfortable.
Openly ran by a former service officer to Bahrain and current employee of the State Department.
He may well have his right to say what he wants, but not to get paid for it by the taxpayers.
But after years of complaints from coworkers and even Congress, is the extreme podcaster a potential risk to national security?
Should State Department employees be afraid?
Tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Scripps News Tonight.
20 minutes after the hour right now, we continue to track Hurricane Idalia for you. Moments ago, we heard from Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis as he says more than 250,000 people remain in the dark. Same thing for Georgia. Governor Brian Kemp addressing the state, saying 61,000 people are without power, though they are working to restore it. Let's go ahead and head to the White House, where FEMA Administrator Dan Criswell is talking about the agency's Hurricane Idalia response efforts.
All right, good morning, everybody, and thanks, Corrine, and I'll just jump right in. I did just have an opportunity to brief the President on our current response efforts for Hurricane Idalia, which, as all of you know, made landfall early this morning. While we were in there, the President contacted Governor DeSantis to let him know that the federal family continues to be there to support him. The governor expressed that all of his needs are met currently, and the President reiterated that if anything is needed from the federal government, we will be able to support, and we have over 1,000 personnel currently deployed, prepared to support not just Florida, but all of our states that are in the path as needed. While I was in there, the President also directed me to travel immediately into the area, and I will be traveling later this afternoon to join Governor DeSantis tomorrow to do assessments and see firsthand what the impacts from this storm are, and I can be able to report back to the President exactly what I see, what we think the needs might be, and where the federal family can continue to assist. Before I touch more on Hurricane Idalia, I also want to address the second reason that I am here at the White House today. Today, I will also join President Biden alongside his cabinet and agency officials who are supporting the response and the recovery efforts on the ground in Hawaii as we continue to help the people of Maui rebuild and recover over the long term. This whole of government approach is what is needed to get the right resources to the people of Maui, the resources and the assistance that they need and that they deserve. Now back a little bit to what we know so far on Hurricane Idalia. While it is still too soon to assess the total damages, we know that the storm made landfall as a Category 3, which means over 120 mile-per-hour winds and up to 10 inches of rain in some areas. Peak storm surge in some places along the coast. It has peaked right now, but it could surpass once they measure over 15 feet of storm surge. We'll get exact numbers as they're able to go in and assess what the total storm surge was. And in fact, Idalia is the strongest storm to hit this part of Florida, to make landfall in this part of Florida in over 100 years. But FEMA and the entire Biden-Harris administration, we were prepared and we were ready to support the needs of this storm. As I mentioned, we have actually over 1,500 federal responders that are on the ground in the affected area. This includes over 300 personnel from FEMA, as well as over 500 urban search and rescue personnel ready to support any of the state's requests. As of 7:30 this morning, and I know these numbers are dynamic and fluid, but as of 7:30 this morning, there are nearly 300,000 customer outages for power in Florida, and we do expect those numbers to continue to rise as the storm passes through and goes into Georgia, and we'll see power outage numbers for Georgia, South Carolina, and perhaps North Carolina. Our partners at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers are pre-positioned to support power restoration, and they have over 30 generators that are pre-staged. Additionally, the utilities are preparing for storm impacts, including pre-staging crews and equipment outside of the projected storm track. And the state anticipates a total of about 30,000 to 40,000 linemen in Florida to begin to assist in the power restoration efforts. People that are still in the storm's path, however, as you heard from Corrine, they should not venture out into the storm and remain sheltering in place if your local officials are telling you to do so. However, if you are in trouble and you need immediate assistance, please call 911. As you do go out, do not wade in the water. Do not drive through flooded roads and streets. Just remember, turn around, don't drown. Unfortunately, we see so many fatalities after the storm passes. We want to make sure that everybody is taking the right precautions to keep themselves safe. And as always, please continue to listen to your local officials as this storm continues to pass over Georgia currently and into South Carolina. Please check on your friends and your family and your loved ones, especially older adults and people living with disabilities, to see if they have any needs. In closing, I just want to remind people that this is still very much an active situation. Remnants of the storm are still affecting Florida as we speak. The storm is over Georgia and moving into South Carolina. People there and in the Carolinas will continue to experience impacts throughout the day today and possibly into the weekend. Again, FEMA is well postured with our federal partners to support Floridians during this time of need and stands ready to support other affected states as needed. With that, I can take any questions.
Thank you. Administrator, what are you most concerned about over the next day or two, since you just said it's too early right now to assess the extent of damage in Florida?
Yeah, my biggest concern is those people who chose not to evacuate, and I know that our local first responders.
And that was FEMA Administrator Deanna Criswell with an update there. In the meantime, Hurricane Idalia hitting coastal areas just ahead of Labor Day weekend. And that is one of the busiest road trip holidays and creates an increased demand for fuel across the country. National correspondent Andy Guajardo explains why we might be seeing higher gas prices as a result.
As Florida residents pack up and hit the road in search of a safe space, Hurricane Idalia is colliding with Labor Day weekend, one of the busiest holidays for road travel. Together, they're expected to drive up fuel demand nationwide. In Florida, shortages are already being reported.
There are a few gas stations that have run out within Hernando County. We're awaiting delivery.
The powerful storm potentially pausing fuel deliveries.
We've activated our emergency fuel trackers.
Patrick DeHaan, a Gas Buddy spokesperson, says drivers will feel the fuel strain. A warning alerted drivers in Florida to watch out for potential fuel contamination.
Now, as millions potentially evacuate, that's going to make it a bit of a headache.
Citgo identified 29 stations that ran the risk of diesel contamination caused by human error.
We're told now that Citgo has issued the alert to those stations that bought that gasoline not to sell it.
Powerful winds could knock Gulf refineries offline and limit production and supplies in many regions. According to AAA, the average price for gasoline nationwide sits at $3.82 a gallon, and prices may stay high into fall due to volatile oil prices and an active hurricane season.
That was Addie Guajardo reporting there for us. I'm Veronica Cruz. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. And don't forget, you can always check us out online at scripsnews.com. Now, if you are staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right here on Scripps News Live, including more on Hurricane Idalia as it leaves its wrath on Florida and the state of Georgia. We're back after this.
I was having problems with my legs and my feet.
I suffered a lot of cramps, swelling.
I would dread going up and down steps.
Tingling in my legs due to circulation issues.
The aches and pains have just continued to increase.
Did you know if you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, or are over 40, your leg aches and pains could be from poor circulation? Revitive can help reduce leg aches and pains, swelling, and cramps. Revitive uses breakthrough technology to get your calf muscles pumping like a second heart to increase blood flow, reducing leg aches and pains, cramps, or swollen feet and ankles.
Plus, it's drug-free.
The cramping was terrible, and I don't get that anymore. Thank you, Revitive.
Revitive is FDA cleared and clinically proven to increase oxygen-rich blood flow during use. The smart stimulation works so well, over 3 million people use Revitive.
As a firefighter, I'm constantly on my feet. I wish I had known about Revitive a lot earlier. It would have made a huge difference in really who I am today.
Revitive has given me a better quality of life because I am living without pain.
Revitive reduces leg pains 2 times more than exercise alone in just 6 weeks.
We want to take walks. We want to do more social activities, just the typical things in life that I did not feel well enough before Revitive that I was able to do.
Now, Revitive is regenerizing my legs and making me feel like, let's do more.
Go to Revitive.com now to learn how Revitive can help reduce leg aches and pains, swelling, and cramps.
The doctor said go for it, and I'm in the best shape in terms of my legs and my ankles and my feet than I've ever been.
Try Revitive. You will see the difference. It works. It worked for me.
Get the most out of life with Revitive. Visit Revitive.com. That's REVITIVE.com. Or call
1-800-317-6641. That's 1-800-317-6641 today. Or visit Revitive.com. Order now.
Hey there, welcome to Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Cruz. Let's get you caught up on the day's top stories, beginning with Hurricane Idalia. The center right now crossing southern Georgia as a Cat 1 storm. And it's not the strength of the storm that has meteorologists concerned right now, but how fast it strengthened. Idalia intensified rapidly before making landfall this morning on Florida's Big Bend. Its wind strengthened by 40 miles per hour in just 21 hours. Now, to compare, a storm that normally rapidly intensifies at 35 miles per hour in 24 hours is what you would see. Rapidly intensifying hurricanes are becoming more and more common. In fact, 80% of major hurricanes fall into this category. But as Idalia is proving, storms are beginning to get stronger faster. Professor Kerry Emanuel joins me now. He's an emeritus professor of atmospheric science at MIT. Kerry, thank you so much for your time today. So we were just listening into FEMA Administrator Deanna Criswell, who is calling this the worst storm that Florida has seen in 100 years. How did this storm intensify so quickly?
Well, storms intensify by drawing heat out of the ocean. And the greater the difference essentially between the temperature of the ocean and the temperature higher up in the atmosphere, the more rapidly they can intensify. So we've been predicting for some time that as the oceans warm up, we're going to see more cases of rapidly intensifying storms like Idalia.
Now, I was in Mexico not that long ago when I was in the water, and I couldn't believe how warm the water was. It felt like it was 100 degrees. Professor, let's talk about past storms, past hurricanes. Have you seen anything like this before?
Oh, yes, we have seen very rapidly intensifying storms. Patricia in the Eastern Pacific intensified even more rapidly than this storm. So, you can look at individual storms, but at the end of the day, if you really want to understand what's happening, you really have to look at the statistics of storms. And that's been done, and we are beginning to see in those statistics a significant signal of more rapidly intensifying tropical cyclones.
And do you expect this to get worse? I mean, what does the future look like, and can anything be done about this?
Well, unfortunately, we do expect this particular statistic to get worse, and we expect to see storms of higher intensity. It's a challenge. It's harder to predict rapid intensification, and when you have a situation like this, where the storm starts out as almost nothing, and a few days later it's a Cat 4 storm, that's a real challenge for forecasters. And I think it must be said that they really came up and met that challenge this time. The forecasts of the storm were truly excellent.
Now, this storm made landfall as a Category 3 before intensifying to a Category 4. Now, when we look at the pictures, we see the storm surge, and we understand that that is the most dangerous part of a storm. What should folks be wary of right now?
Well, you said something very important. It's by and large water that kills people in hurricanes, both from storm surges, also from massive amounts of rain. And this is something that we have to worry about when one of these systems is over land. Even if the winds have died down quite a bit, you can get a great deal of rain. Harvey in 2017 flooded Houston, but there wasn't much wind in Houston. It's all about water at the end of the day.
And as the days wear on, what can we expect? Because we know that it's going to take a while. There's going to be a lot of flooding. What do you think people should be aware of?
Well, the strongest advice I can give to viewers and listeners is to pay attention to what authorities in your area say. If they give the word to evacuate, don't mess around, get out of there. They don't take that kind of action lightly, and you save your life and those of your friends and loved ones by doing that. If they tell you to get out, get out.
Yeah, we really can't stress that enough. Professor Kerry Emanuel, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So many Florida residents still haven't recovered from Hurricane Ian last year, and Idalia has been bringing back terrifying memories. Stephanie Susskind with Scripps News West Palm Beach spoke with a Fort Myers woman who wasn't expecting the emotional toll that these hurricanes have been taking.
We had about 5 or 6 feet of water in our house. So we lost everything that we had in there.
For Kat Velez, it feels like just yesterday she returned to her South Fort Myers home after Hurricane Ian to find it destroyed.
When we came back, it was pretty devastating. I didn't think it would impact me as hard to see, everything we own just moldy and stinky. I'll never forget that smell. And
it's been a roller coaster of a year, living in rentals and trying to rebuild. Her house was finally ready to move back in this week. And then here comes Hurricane Idalia.
So we're very excited to move home, but then here comes Idalia. So we're kind of freaked out, to not even be back in our house yet and have the threat coming. It was just a lot I had to center myself, it's not Ian, it's a different storm. You just have to recalibrate where you're at emotionally and think logically about it.
That hasn't been easy, with the Southwest Florida community still recovering from Hurricane Ian.
You see other people recovering, some faster, some slower. It's just really a mix, and it's emotionally, it's a lot to kind of balance all of that and still keep life going and just manage the day-to-day stuff.
Hurricane Idalia is expected to spare Fort Myers the worst, bringing Velez and her daughters some comfort and hope they'll be back in their home by the end of the week.
How do you think it'll feel when you can finally spend the night in your own home again?
Well, I showered there for the first time in a year the other day, and that was amazing. I know that sounds stupid, but I can't imagine being able to live there again. And
bringing some normalcy to what's been a year of anything but.
In other news at this hour, 110 people officially missing in Maui right now. The search efforts for Maui's devastating wildfires have finished on land and are now moving to the sea. The FBI releasing a list of 388 missing people. More than 200 have responded to share information about their loved ones, including providing DNA samples that police hope will help identify remains. Some Maui wildfire survivors are leaving everything they know to move to the U.S. mainland. Abel Garcia with Scripps News Vegas spoke with a couple preparing to embark on a new chapter.
The people of Lahaina are still recovering from the devastation. Residents like the Paris family who lost everything are figuring out how to start their lives over again.
When you look at that yourself,
you see that picture, I mean, what comes to mind for both of you when you look at the devastation?
Just
hurt.
Yeah, man, it hurts.
It just hurts.
This picture shows what is left of Brasley and Sergio Perez's home in Lahaina. They lived here for 4 years with their 5 and 8-year-olds. They tell me they not only lost their home, but their car, pictures of their children, and even their jobs.
Very impactful.
It's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking.
Devastating. You know, the fear that I have, and like, this is the town that I grew up. My roots are there.
The Perez family is currently staying in a hotel 10 minutes away from where their home once stood.
It's just very hard to understand how we went from being okay and stable and have jobs and a home to basically nothing.
They say Lahaina is no longer where they want to raise their family. Now they are looking at moving to what many call the 9th Island.
When we say Las Vegas, we see hope in all of it, even knowing that we don't have a house there, we don't have nothing.
They say getting a new home and restarting a life in Maui is currently out of reach for them. Perez says Las Vegas is more affordable, jobs are available, and they can remove their kids from the devastation.
Just for our kids to have some kind of stability of going to school, be able to play with friends. They're not playing with no friends right now.
The Perez family is expecting to be in Las Vegas in less than a month, ready to rebuild their lives in the valley.
We lost Lahaina, although the roots lay in the Lahaina people's heart. But for my kids to have to see this and see this happening, it's a bad sight for them.
That was Abel Garcia reporting there for us. Don't forget the people of Maui still need help along their long road to recovery. Monetary donations will be crucial for survivors struggling to piece their lives back together again. Scripps News supporting those relief efforts through the Scripps Maui Wildfire Relief Campaign. All you have to do is scan the QR code on the bottom of your screen if you'd like to help. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, emergency crews in parts of Florida advising people to stay clear of the rising floodwaters. Our coverage of Hurricane Idalia continues after a quick break. And a reminder right here, you can find more online. Check us out at scripsnews.com. Also on X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and on Threads.
Hi, I'm Kirk Kaiser, and did you know the average funeral costs around $10,000? And if you don't have enough insurance to cover funeral costs, credit card debt, and other expenses, your family is going to get stuck with the bill. Don't let that happen. Call right now, and if you're over 50, you can get up to $30,000 in affordable life insurance, and your acceptance is guaranteed. That's right, if you're over 50, you can't be turned down for this insurance, regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam and no health questions. Your rate will never go up. Your coverage will never go down. And rates start as low as $5 a week. Your coverage begins as soon as your application is received. Don't wait until it's too late.
Just call 800-760-7793.
Coverage is guaranteed regardless of your health and cannot be canceled without your approval. Don't leave your family with a huge bill for your funeral. With one fast and easy call, get up to $30,000 in affordable life insurance to help cover funeral expenses and credit card debt, and maybe even leave something for your kids and your grandkids. Remember, if you're over 50, you can't be turned down, regardless of your health. There's no medical exam and no health questions. Best of all, your rates start as low as $5 a week, and your rate will never increase. Nothing is more important than family. So don't leave them with a lot of bills to pay when you're gone. Don't leave your family with a lot of bills to pay for your funeral. Call right now. Acceptance is guaranteed. Call right now.
Call now. Call 800-760-7793. That's 800-760-7793.
How does Klein Inspector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein Inspector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein Inspector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein Inspector.
How can a photo become a vibrant part of your home? When you go to tryfracture.com and print your images directly on glass. Get beautiful depth and clarity on a sleek frameless print that's easy to hang and looks incredible in any space. Go to tryfracture.com now to save 20% on glass prints.
Sunday nights on In Real Life, Scripps News journalists take you off the grid.
We were just a bunch of kids with a camera.
And to the heart of the story. In Real Life, Sunday at 8, 7 Central, only on Scripps News.
Three minutes after the hour now, let's take a look at this bird's eye view of Hurricane Idalia after it made landfall in Florida's Big Bend around 8 a.m. this morning. The International Space Station releasing these amazing images. Take a look. Wow, this flyover lasting about 20 minutes. And Hernando Beach was one of several areas in Florida under an emergency evacuation order. Now the coastal area is dealing with impassable roads and rising waters. Take a look at that. Flooding is only expected to get worse throughout the day. Katie LeGrone with Scripps News Tampa took a ride along with National Guard firefighters as they trekked through the flooded area to assess all of the damage.
That's right, and that's all actually still being sort of unfolding as we speak, because look, I mean, this is what we're dealing with here on Hernando Beach. I mean, this is Shoreline, this is Boulevard, this is the main road in and out of Hernando County, and there are portions of it that are basically just impassable. I mean, we've got about 4 feet of water from the storm surge overnight, and remember, king tide has not even come yet, and so that's not expected until 1:20 in the afternoon. And so you mentioned we've been with National Guard and the Hernando County Fire Rescue. This is actually Captain Sean Moulton, who's been gracious enough to let us really, quite frankly, literally hitch a ride. Sean, thank you so much, Captain Moulton. What is the biggest issue that you're dealing with right now?
Oh, just the impassability. Well, a couple issues. One, we have a residential fire that's going that we cannot get any units to it. So that's burning at this time, so we're working on that. The other issue we have is one of our crews, one of the rescue crews, which is actually in one of these LMTVs, which these have a 30-inch clearance, is stuck down this road at this point. So we actually got down this road and then retreated. It's just getting too deep. This water on this street is at least 3 feet on the road. So you can start to see vehicles are getting stuck. But at this point, most of the people who are out here have either left or they're staying where they're at.
Okay, because that was my next question, is what are you hearing by way of rescue needs? Are you actually getting calls from people who want to be rescued, who need to be rescued?
Not really at this point. We've stopped and talked to a couple people who were stuck on the bridge over here. Most people are wanting to stay or they want to wade back to their homes. So they don't want to leave the area. And really, they can't leave with their personal vehicle. The road here, Shoreline, which this whole beach community is only able to be accessed via the north on Shoreline or the south on Shoreline Boulevard. It is the only way in and out, and it's completely impassable from the north or south to personal vehicles. So if you're not in a vehicle like we're in, you're not getting out here.
You've been with the department for 21 years. Give us some perspective. Where does this rank in your history?
Well, personally, I don't know if this is the worst it's ever been, but since that I've had my eyes on, yes, this is the worst that I've seen it. And, it's only going to get worse from here. So coming out here, I didn't think it was going to be this bad. I thought we were going to hit some water on Shoreline. I did not realize this was completely impassable. So.
And you were out here at 1 o'clock in the morning, right?
I came out here. Our command staff came out here along with the National Guard, the Army, and we brought a lot of their command staff out, and we reconned out here at 1 a.m. And we thought it might get bad, but we really didn't think it would get this bad at that time. We were all through these roads, just, I don't know, what time is it now? So 8-9 hours, 10 hours ago, we were out here driving these in a pickup truck. No problem. Completely passable. We went all the way out to Pine Island and back. And so this is how bad it's gotten just in the last few hours.
And we know king tide expected about 1:20 this afternoon, so it's only going to get worse. At one point, you had mentioned that there are Black Hawk helicopters that are sort of on standby to do some lift missions from the air. What is the status of
the last thing I heard? And again, I'm lower down on the totem pole, so it's the command staff. I was hearing them on the radio saying the Black Hawks are unable to fly right now. I mean, if you feel that the wind's still pretty gusty out here, that's part of the problem we're having. You can see the water still moving in. So if there was any possibility for this to retreat, it's just not going to. It's not heavy gusts, but it's heavy enough to not allow any of this water to retreat, and the tide's still moving in. So all those things are working against us. So this is only going to get worse.
Appreciate your time, Captain. Thank you again for letting us, hang out with you guys. This is pretty incredible stuff. I mean, this is the aftermath of Hurricane Idalia playing out in Hernando Beach. This was an area that all day yesterday, all evening, I was saying emergency officials really honed in on. It was never about a major wind event here. It was never about a major rain event here. It was always about that storm surge, that water, more water. And this is exactly what they were predicting. It's going to get worse. They've mentioned that 6 to 9 feet storm surge, and so it looks like that is very much where this area is headed, at least in the later hours of the day. So that's the very latest from Hernando County. Guys, back to you.
All right, thank you so much for that report. It is amazing to see all of that water. Well, a rare blue supermoon could raise tides and make flooding even worse as Hurricane Idalia swamps western Florida. The moon is closest to the Earth today, and that intensifies its gravitational pull, making the tides higher, not just in Florida, but also in South Carolina and in Georgia. Storm surge expected along the Atlantic coast in Savannah, Georgia, and Charleston, South Carolina. Of course, we're going to keep a close eye on it for you. So close to 2/3 of the country's wetlands are losing federal protections as the EPA looks to comply with a Supreme Court ruling. In May, the court said the agency's interpretation of the Clean Water Act was too broad and that it didn't have the power to regulate the nation's waterways. So now, fewer types of rivers, streams, and wetlands are all covered under this law. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, more girls now have the opportunity to learn ballet. That's all thanks to a woman who wanted to make a difference.
It's important for girls to really get to know who they are on the inside. I'm pretty sure, like me, every woman or every girl wished to be a ballerina at one time of their lives.
We're going to explain how she's been breaking down barriers for aspiring dancers after this.
Municipal bonds don't usually get the media coverage the stock market does. In fact, most people don't find them all that exciting. But if you're looking for the potential for consistent income that's federally tax-free, now is an excellent time to consider municipal bonds from Henyon & Walsh. If you have at least $10,000 to invest, call and talk with one of our bond specialists at 1-800-465-8465. We'll send you our exclusive bond guide, free, with details about how bonds can be an important part of your portfolio. Henyon & Walsh has specialized in fixed income and growth solutions for 30 years and offers high-quality municipal bonds from across the country. They provide the potential for regular income, are federally tax-free, and have historically low risk. Call today to request your free bond guide. 1-800-465-8465. That's 1-800-465-8465.
Hey, I'm inside the bank. What? I don't have much time. Where's the $500?
I said drop your bank and get Dave, the banking app.
What?
There's an easier way.
Oh, she going to jail.
You can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less when you download Dave.
When a cyber thief transfers the title of your home out of your name, it's a race against time to stop the theft of your hard-earned equity.
Many people don't know this has happened until long after it's done.
You as the homeowner think you still own a house. 3 months later, you start getting foreclosure notices and you realize you've got 4 mortgages on your house that you didn't even know existed.
So when's the last time you checked on the title to your home? Find out if you're already a victim at HomeTitleLock.com.
Huh. How long have you been tracking our car's value with Carvana?
Just like 7 months.
Should we sell it?
We hold.
Hold.
Silver vans are going for more right now, should we?
Our low mileage is paying off. You think we should?
Hold.
Depreciation's really heating up, you think? We just dipped 2.5%!
Now!
I'm on it.
Already sold to Carvana.
Go to Carvana and track your car's value today.
Sometimes you don't realize what's not covered by your dental insurance until you get the bill. That's why affordable dental insurance from Physicians Mutual Insurance Company is important. This isn't some discount plan. It helps cover things like cleanings, fillings, crowns, bridges, root canals, even dentures at any dentist you want, with no deductibles and no annual maximum. For your free information kit with all the details, visit dentalnow.com.
Physicians Mutual, Physicians Mutual.
For over 100 years, this light has shined, a beacon of the free American press.
Reporting from Ukraine, Scripps News.
And now, this light shines even brighter. Scripps News.
Quick reminder right here, we'd like to hear from you. Give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline. That number is toll free. It's on your screen right now. It's 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Again, it's 1-833-472-7477. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas. Welcome back to Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Cruz. We are continuing to track the latest on Hurricane Idalia for you, which has left Florida. It's now over the southern part of Georgia. As of right now, hundreds of thousands of people remain without power. But we do know that the Army Corps of Engineers is working to get the power restored. President Biden will be addressing the nation shortly. We want to bring you this story now from Ohio. It's all about the importance of dance. Learning ballet teaches you posture, confidence, and coordination, but the cost can be a burden. And that's why one organization is finding a way to make classes more affordable for kids with limited resources. Tanya O'Rourke with Scripps News Cincinnati sat down with an instructor who's been making a difference.
It's like if I'm having a bad day, I come to dance and it's all gone.
11-year-old Ariana Williams practices her ballet solo in the basement of College Hill Presbyterian Church. It's where Jesus University Ballet is housed.
You've been doing this for how long?
7 to 8 years.
7 or 8 years
Yep.
you've been coming here. Why?
It just brings me joy. I love it. It's like a relief to me.
Helen Brooks founded the ballet with her husband.
Why is this important?
On twofold, it's important for girls to really get to know who they are on the inside. I'm pretty sure, like me, every woman or every girl wished to be a ballerina at one time of their lives. And then the confidence. Sure, everyone can't be a ballerina, but they can feel important enough to, think of themselves as one.
48 girls are in the program. They perform all over the area. And Helen makes sure the cost is affordable, just $25 a month.
You all make this inexpensive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important to you. Why?
It's important because that means other kids get an opportunity.
An opportunity to learn, to grow, and to aspire.
Ballerinas have a certain image, but now we see that those images are changing. And so things that we would think were impossible at one time are becoming more impossible, especially for people of color.
What has it taught you that isn't about dancing, is more about life?
Confidence is one of the really big things.
Brooks is convinced keeping kids dancing step by step gives them discipline and keeps them safe.
Is this a safe space for you?
Yeah, I think that it's a safe space for a lot of girls here. And they just feel like they're safe here and they can express themselves.
You think you've saved a few lives along the way?
I sure hope so. I don't know, save, but maybe participating in the trajectory of their lives, maybe giving them a little bit more of a release or confidence in themselves to start making better choices.
That was Tanya O'Rourke reporting there for us. I'm Veronica Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us today. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. And don't forget, you can always check us out online. Head over to scripsnews.com. Now, if you're staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right here on Scripps News Live, including more coverage of Hurricane Idalia. Don't forget, I'll be back with you at 3 p.m. Eastern. And in the meantime, Lauren Magarino is up next. We'll be right back.